right, welcome back to the Artist Connection podcast. This is Matt Kesar here today with a very special guest, Madellaine Paxson. Welcome.
Hello.
Hey. So we're recording this on September 1st, and like I said, it's going to go out very soon after we speak because today is a very important day for you. Why don't you tell us what's going on today in your world?
Today is the official release day for my film Blood Punch.
Well, that's exciting, and I had the opportunity to see it, and I could not stop watching it. I mean, I loved it.
Well, that's great. That's what we like to hear.
And let me tell you just what I loved about it, because to say, as I was watching it, and I'm not going to give any spoilers or anything, of course, I want people to, unravel it all like I had the opportunity to, but I love the kind of movie where not only do you not know what's going to happen next, but you're trying to figure out what you just saw. Or where is this going, and what does that mean? And then there's another thing in front of you. Just when you think you have it, just when you think, oh, okay, there's some semblance of something I knew before, it changes. And that's what keeps you through the entire movie. Loved it.
Like a bunch of switchbacks back and forth.
Yeah, you don't know what's next. And that's something that, to me, as a fan of movies, I know that Quentin Tarantino in the 90s probably flipped a script on a lot of things in terms of storytelling with Pulp Fiction, where you're getting into the story in different segments and you don't know where exactly it's happening. But you took that one step further in this thing, and I can't say enough about it.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad that you actually respond to that, because, we're never sure when you put out that kind of thing how it's going to go over.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, because, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit later, but let's just jump into it right now. Of course, I want to learn about you, and I want to talk about the movie. But when you think of audiences, not only for a movie like this, but just audiences in general, it feels like, as a culture, our attention span has gotten a lot shorter. And this summer, I went to a lot of concerts, with my family. I saw a lot of different bands, from local bands all the way up to U2 and The Who and Robert Plant. People have been doing it forever, have a huge audience, but yet no matter what the concert was, throughout the show, people are getting up and leaving their seats and getting beers and coming back. And I know that's always happened, but it just seems like now it's a steady stream of people moving all the time. So to get somebody's attention today and not only grab their attention, but keep it for an hour and a half or an hour and 40 minutes must feel like such an incredible thing to take on before you got started. Is that something that you think about?
Well, we generally, that's sort of the end hope, your hope for it at the end.
Yeah.
But if you go into it thinking that way, you'll almost freak yourself out too much.
I bet. Yeah, I bet.
So you have to kind of go with your own gut and your own taste, and do what you think you would like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's great advice. I've heard that from a lot of creative people, from authors to musicians. Do what you like first, and then from there, the audience, hopefully, the audience will follow.
Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise, you're painting yourself into a very scary corner.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done. I can't say it enough. As this being your directorial debut, you really knocked it out of the park.
Well, thank you. I just want to give a shout out to the screenwriter who's responsible for all the amazing storytelling, Eddie Gazillion, who is also an executive producer on the movie. So,
nice.
We did it all together. We can get into our backstories more later.
Sure, absolutely.
That part of the...
Yeah. Because a lot of your experiences have been as a writer.
Yes, exactly. And that's one of the interesting things to notice now, that, boy, directors sure get a lot more credit than writers. I've always known this, but I feel like I'm getting a lot more credit than the writer. I don't know, because what is it, right? Maybe directors are the front man, so to speak.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting that I would think, and I've never done either, so the only way that I can imagine is you have the writer come up with the story, and in whatever form that takes, be it a script or a book or whatever, and then the director is the one who's interpreting the story, and now you're giving the visual, and you're, I guess, making the decisions of what parts of the story stay in, what stays out. Is that the relationship that you had?
Well, the funny thing is that I am a professional writer of cartoons, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you know that
Yep,
already.
I do.
Might as well just roll right into that.
Yes, because
Eddie
it's quite a
Gazillion.
departure. Quite a departure from what we.
Right, exactly. Probably had a bit of pent-up aggression to work out.
You think so? Yeah.
But that's where I met Eddie Gazillion and I both met at Disney. And we wrote cartoons for years. And he got, one year, he got hired on to essentially produce season, I don't remember, I think it was 17 of Power Rangers. And do you know any of this backstory? Because this is
I do, yeah, and you're correct. Season 17 going to New Zealand and
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the show films in New Zealand and casts its primary cast, at least back then, not anymore, but they used to cast actors from New Zealand and Australia. And I wrote on it with Eddie, and you know, both of us had worked in live-action kids' TV here in the U.S., and casting that was really difficult. You don't find a lot of great actors that age in L.A., but when we saw the actors in New Zealand, and they were some of them so young. I mean, Olivia Tennant, I think, was 17 at the time. They were amazing, and we were so blown away. So we did it backwards. Instead of, hey, let's write a script and cast it, we started with the cast first.
I love that.
All of us, essentially, our history is working essentially in kids' TV, you know, because they were Power Rangers, and we were cartoon writers or kids' TV writers. So when we decided to take this on, hey, let's all make a movie together, guys. We started essentially with the 3 lead actors that you have seen in the movie and wrote essentially around to that. And then we had budget constrictions, so of course we essentially fashioned the story around the actors. They're great actors, so we knew we could really twist their characters up.
Sure.
And for them to stretch a lot, and they would be great at it. And we wanted to see them do that because everybody wants to stretch their abilities, you know? And so anyway, that's how we got started. It wasn't essentially, hey, we have this great idea for a movie. Now let's go out and find other people. We started with the people first.
Well, and it makes a huge difference. I mean, obviously you're not always going to have the luxury to do that, but the fact that all of you have worked together and the comfort level of those actors on the screen throughout the whole thing, and like you're talking about stretching, I saw that too, because they were all great in their performances, and at different parts of the movie, you don't know which one is the crazy one. Right? I mean, like it starts out, you think, okay, there's the nerd, there's the tough guy, there's the femme fatale, and she's somehow in the middle of all this. And you think, okay, that's all is right with the world. And then little by little, you see like the look in her eye is different in this one scene versus the other, meaning now she's a little bit more confident, a little bit more in control, but now when Russell's in the room, she seems meek and timid. And this is all just expression stuff. I mean, this isn't even anything in the dialogue. This is just in the way that they carry themselves throughout the movie, which was great.
Absolutely. I mean, they get away with those subtle things, and they're so good at it. You know, essentially, we couldn't do the movie without them. We couldn't have done it without them, really. We wouldn't have. That's because we started with them.
Yeah.
So.
You know, another thing I want to point out is the score throughout the whole movie, and the importance of music in a film like this. And I think a lot of times score is overlooked by people, and it isn't always as widely used as I think it should be. I mean, if you look at the old movies, they always have music going on in the background, no matter what the scene is, funny or sad or angry. There's always this, you know, jazzy kind of music going on in the background. And again, back to Quentin Tarantino in the 90s, soundtrack came back to being really important and having funky songs and songs that kind of match the dialogue and match the feel. But in this movie, the score is what drove that whole thing. And I love it. What can you tell me about that? Who put that together?
Well, going back to kids' TV, the score was composed by the phenomenal composer Adam Berry, who we worked with at Disney. we brought him aboard, and he was so